So what we're going to look at section 5.3, and this is going to be very similar to what we did in 5.2, except we're using a slightly different system. So the metric system. Now, this is the measurement system that's actually used by pretty much the rest of the world. In the United States, we use the US system or the imperial system. In the rest of the world, you're going to hear about the metric system. It's also the system you're going to encounter in chemistry classes and in physics classes. So, for example, instead of pounds, like we have in the US system, there will be kilograms in the metric system. Instead of inches in the US system, centimeters in the metric system. Instead of, say, gallons in the US system, you'll have liters in the metric system. Liters smaller than a gallon, centimeters smaller than an inch. A kilogram tends to be heavier than a pound. Let's say, so an area, instead of acres, we have hectares. And so on. So it measures the exact same things that we would measure using the US system. It just uses a different standard of units. For example, you notice again, like a centimeter, it's measuring lengths of things you might see on your desk. You could also measure those things with inches, like the size of a book. You could measure the distance from here to, say, Vaughan using miles, or you could use kilometers if you wanted to. You can measure your weight in kilograms, and you could measure your weight in pounds. And the results you're going to get are going to come out slightly different. 10 pounds is not the same as 10 kilograms. So the metric system, things are going to be a little different, but it measures the exact same things that we measure in the US system. Now, there's one other thing about the metric system I want to mention. It's a base 10 system. So, for example, if we have 1 meter, a centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. And this is m, it's 1 centimeter. We call this as base 10 because a hundredth is a tenth times a tenth will give you a hundredth. Just to do some fraction multiplication review, multiply across, 1 times 1 is 1, 10 times 10 is 100. Likewise, a millimeter is 1,000th of a meter. So if you look on a ruler that has both the metric measurements, centimeters and millimeters, as well as the US measurement inches, 1,000 of those millimeters will give you 1 meter. Now this extends the other way. 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer. And if you had 1,000,000 meters, this equals 1 megameter. And so forth. Now you can even go do some other measurements. For example, 1,000,000th of a meter is 1 micrometer. And then 1 billionth of a meter is 1 nanometer. So the idea here is when we convert, say, from kilometers, say 1 kilometer to nanometers, we're going to be working with, well, fractions or multiples of 10 or a tenth. And hopefully this can make the metric system a little easier to navigate. You're not going to see 12 inches for a foot, 5,280 feet for a mile, 3 feet for a yard. It's all going to be multiples of a tenth or multiples of 10. And again, the goal of that was to try to make this easier to handle, to work with. So that's an introduction to the metric system. We'll do some conversions. Any questions? Let me know.